We all want to be more creative. But sometimes the fastest way to get there isn't by asking, how do I become more creative? Sometimes it's more useful to ask the opposite. What's stopping me from being creative in the first place? Often, what's holding us back from being creative isn't a lack of ability, but a reluctance to experiment. We get attached to one idea. Try the one idea, it kind of works. And we're like, perfect, let's not risk ruining this. And we stop exploring alternative possibilities. Here's a story to illustrate the point. And like most good lessons, it involves people being very confident and slightly wrong. There's an old story about 6 blind men in a village in India. They all heard about elephants, but none of them had ever encountered one. One day, an elephant came through the village. So each man reached out to understand what the mysterious creature was. One touched its side and said, the elephant is like a wall, strong and wide. Another touched the tusks and said, no, it's sharp like a spear. Another grabbed the trunk and said, no, it's like a snake, flexible and alive. Another felt the legs and said, no, it's like a tree trunk. And yet another touched the tail and said, no, they're just playing a prank on us. It's like a rope. And finally another touched his ears and said, no, it's like a fan. Each grew more certain about their own perspective and more frustrated with the others. And they were all convinced that they were right, as most debates tend to go. But then a wise man walked by and listened to the argument, said, you are all right and all wrong, because each of them had only one perspective. Therefore, they could only see a small piece of the full picture. And that's exactly how creativity works. Most people think creativity is simply coming up with new ideas. But while they're not wrong, it's not complete. It misses a critical step in the process. Therefore, a better way to think about creativity is this: the process of exploring a problem from multiple perspectives until a new solution reveals itself. When you get stuck, it's usually not because we lack ideas. It's because we're stuck looking at the problem from one angle. Therefore, creativity isn't about forcing ideas. It's about shifting perspectives until you discover a new idea. So here's a simple technique to push your creativity. Set a quota. Let's say 10 ideas. Most people stop at the first good idea they find because they want to hold on to it. That's usually the most obvious idea. Therefore, instead of stopping there, force yourself to keep going. That's why you have a quota. And here's the key. Each one of your ideas should come from a slightly different angle. If you can't find a new idea, find a new angle. For example, if someone was to come up to you and say, you're stupid, your first response might be, no, you're stupid. Not a very good comeback. So let's try some different ones. You could be humorous and say something like, only before coffee. Or be more playful and say, I prefer selectively brilliant. Or more curious and say, what gave it away? Or you could be more confident and say, interesting opinion. Or you could be exaggerative and say, correct, it's part of my long-term strategy. Now, those are better responses, and they came from different perspectives. Now it's your turn to give it a try. For today's practice, we're going to be switching things up. We'll be coming up with 10 different comebacks to the following insult. You're ugly. Remember to stop your brain from going into defensive mode, responding with the first thing that comes to mind. Our goal is to explore different angles. The more unexpected, the better. That's all for now, learners. We'll see you in the next one. Remember, if you ever feel stuck, you probably haven't changed your angle yet. We'll see you in the next one. Want to learn more? Subscribe for video updates, or check out my full courses. Free links in description below. We'll see you around. Keep learning, and may God bless you and your family.